Welcome to TexasTech.com. I'm Brian Jensen, voice of Texas Tech football. This, of course, the keys to the game for this weekend's big matchup between your Texas Tech Red Raiders and the Texas Longhorns. I'm outside Jones AT&T Stadium for this big one. Let's go inside to my cohorts, Chris Level and John Harris.
Thank you, Brian. Chris Level here with the Texas Tech Sports Network. It's that time of the week for keys to the game. And Mr. Harris, yours would be what, sir?
Well, it's probably fairly obvious, but I think the one thing the Red Raiders offense cannot do against Texas is turn the ball over. You look at the two losses in Big 12 play to Oklahoma and Kansas State, and in each of those games the Red Raiders have turned the ball over 3 times, and in each of them as well a turnover that leads immediately to a touchdown, a pass intercepted and run back for a score. I think that just swings all of the momentum to the other side. I mean, just immediately, a turnover is bad enough, but a turnover that turns into 6 points just like that takes all of the air out of your sails and gives it all to the other guys. So I think if the Red Raider offense can limit or have no turnovers, you clearly give yourself a much better opportunity to win the ball game. You keep the ball, you give yourself a chance to move down the field and score. It doesn't end abruptly and end very badly.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen from this team is they're not good enough to overcome some of those issues. Some teams are. Texas Tech not one of those.
Well, and against a quality opponent, too. I think that makes a big difference as well. Oklahoma, you make some mistakes, it is tough to recover from that. Kansas State, they're awfully good. You make mistakes there, difficult to overcome. Texas, clearly the ability to make it very difficult on you if you take opportunities away from yourself.
And I agree with John. I think yours is probably the biggest key. Mine would be, if we remember that game in Austin last year, yeah. I think Texas ran it for something like 430 yards. They ran it 54 times. It was 8 yards a carry. They only threw the ball 9 times because they didn't need to throw it. Right. And so to me, I'm not sure that Texas can drop back and throw it 30 or 35 times and beat you. That's just not what they do. Stopping the run. We talk about recipes for victory for Texas. If they're going to come in here and win, how can they do it? And I think the only way they can do it is if they have a ton of success on the ground. So, to me, it's you've got to stop their run game.
You can't turn the ball over, and you can't give Texas the chance to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, because last year in Austin you couldn't stop them. You couldn't do anything defensively because they were just lining up and running right over you. Similar personnel up front for both teams this year. And you're right. I think that is a huge key for the Red Raider defense. Stop the Texas running game.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that Jonathan Gray, a Texas Tech legacy, gets the start this week. It's his first start in his college career. Certainly worth mentioning. And I think you have a guy like, say, Kerry Hyder and DJ Johnson, guys from Austin, Texas, that would like to say hello, and they're running out of opportunities to beat Texas because that's a junior and a senior that haven't ever beat Texas.
And I think on the opposite side of that, if the Red Raiders can limit the Texas running game and get their running game untracked, I think if you see that, I think you have a great opportunity of seeing a Red Raider victory.
Yeah, bottom line turnover, and whichever team runs the ball well, I mean, it's probably going to get the dub. And that's very cliche, but this game seems simpler than others do for whatever reason, so from that aspect. So anyway, that's my key to the game. That's Mr. Harris's key to the game. So, Brian, back to you.
Well, once again, those guys go with the X's and O's, which is expected. I'm going to stay off of that just a little bit. Talk about atmosphere. It is still Halloween week, isn't it? Remember, about 4 years ago on this weekend, how great it was when the Texas Longhorns were here? Michael Crabtree with that great catch right at the end of the game for one of the biggest wins in the history of Texas Tech football. Well, Crabtree is back this weekend to lead the Red Raiders down Raider Walk and to bring some of his excitement to the game. But what I think is most important is that the fans do the same thing they did on that weekend about 4 years ago. Be a part of this game. Make sure that even though it's a 2:30 start, that it is a raucous atmosphere and one that the Longhorns do not feel comfortable in. If the Red Raiders can have that kind of surrounding, then the turnover bug won't happen for them. They'll be able to stop that rushing game, and I think they'll get the firepower they need to do the things they've got to do to get the win here this weekend. It's the Red Raiders and the Texas Longhorns, 2:30 kick, 1:30 pregame on the Texas Tech Sports Network, our 38-station network, and we appreciate you watching this episode, The Keys to the Game, on Texas Tech TV.